All right, howdy everyone. The time is, ooh, my mic is really loud. The time is 7:48 p.m. and it is December 5th. We are in the last month of the year. Welcome to another update from Great Lakes weather. Hopefully you all are doing well. It's been a little while since we've done a video. Weather's been relatively quiet and it's actually not going to be too active over the next several days across the Great Lakes region as well. So that's going to have its benefits, but looking at the potential for maybe a rain and snow mix to come into parts of Michigan and northern Michigan in particular, and places down to the south such as Indiana and Ohio will likely see more along the lines of rain. We're going to look at some of the models and see exactly who's going to see what, and hopefully that'll inform the potential for snow in a lot of different places across the area. And we'll look in the long-range models for the potential of maybe having some snow on the ground for Christmas, which again, that's very far out. We can't make a good determination on that, but good thing to look at anyway. Make sure to subscribe, stay updated, and know the weather that is coming your way. Maybe you're traveling for Christmas up to this area and you're wondering, how's the weather going to be? Well, we got your answers here, so make sure to subscribe to the channel to stay updated. All right, let's begin with the latest on the weather models. Okay, so here we are at the GFS weather model. We're just going to look at some models today briefly. We're just going to touch on a few just to get an idea of what could be happening. First of all, if you live in areas such as Kentucky, Tennessee, this region around here, you are going to see a lot of rain. It's looking likely. So there's a lot of good, decent rain potential for your area. Looking at the models, it really does show the potential for rain accumulations that are pretty significant. So I want to look at that real quick because that's kind of the talk of the weather world right now. A lot of rain appearing to accumulate in Tennessee and Kentucky, kind of a training setup for rainfall across that area over the next several days, even through next Wednesday in particular. Rain accumulations of 4 inches possible in some spots, and it even looks like it could get even more up until we get close to December 20th. Look at all the rainfall that could be expected in this general area as a result of a very unique pattern we have in the atmosphere going on right now. It looks like you could see quite a bit of rain from low pressure systems that will be moving in from the areas off to the south. But it looks like heavy rain potential is coming for that area there, and it looks like it could filter into parts of southern Indiana, southern Ohio as well. So keep your eyes peeled because it looks like rain is on your way down in that vicinity. And I remember you guys had some pretty decent flooding recently as a result of rainfall. So it's a good thing to keep watch over and keep checks on as it moves through. We're going to look at that as well as look at what's going on in our weather. It's current time, 7 p.m. on Monday, and we are going to progress this forward, see what goes on. You really have just a lot of rainfall stagnating in this general area in parts of the Appalachian Mountains. You got a really moist setup there. That's going to continue to progress associated with where the where this warm moist air mass kind of settles, and it kind of settles right in this general area before you see the cooler air mass that kind of sits over parts of the northern Great Lakes region. That is kind of setting you guys up for a lot of rainfall. Kind of two stagnating air masses competing with each other here in this general area. You see that low pressure system riding along that edge between those two air masses, the polar and the polar and tropical air masses that you have here. This low pressure system kind of settles up in between on Friday. Now the real question is who's going to see snow and who's going to see rain. It really looks like mainly a rain event across the Great Lakes region, and maybe just a little bit of snow on the backside on Saturday, but it really looks like it's going to move out relatively quickly with little lake effect snow potential connected with this event. So that's not really looking like something that could be significant. I'm looking at this forecast for Tuesday, December 13th. We've got some pretty decent convection starting to show up on the models as well that show some potential for some thunderstorms even with these. There is not any cape, but there is some relative felicity in the atmosphere, lots of low-level wind shear. So it does look like a pretty stormy day across Illinois, and those storms will actually bring some heavy rainfall to parts of the Great Lakes as it moves through, connected with that low pressure system. So this looks like a pretty interesting storm that could potentially make its way through December 13th. So Tuesday afternoon, it's looking like something to be watching out for. And then you get that heavy snow in parts of Minnesota that could potentially develop as well. One thing you may notice is that the low pressure systems really do not surge off to the northeast like they normally do. Look how this one just kind of settles out in this area and then kind of increases in pressure and dissipates. Right now, what we have in the atmosphere is we have a high pressure system off in parts of Greenland that is really keeping storms from taking off and heading up that northeastern coastline and really not enabling them to travel that much and actually allowing them to kind of stabilize as they go out into Canada and sort of dissipate as they reach that general area. So you're kind of getting a cutting off trend of those nor'easter potentials in that general vicinity. But you do have the storms potentially still taking off associated with the Gulf moisture that could be surging northward on that day when these storms begin to develop. Not sure about how these storms are going to set up. It looks like there's some marginal severe potential associated with some of these storms that could be moving through the general area. So it's just something to be aware of as we look at the longer range models. But that's what the GFS shows. And white Christmas potential, not really able to investigate that just yet. We are not in a point where we can see that on these models, so we'll just have to wait to see where we can get temperatures, how temperatures are going to change throughout the next couple of weeks. Really not going to change too much. You're really going to stick around the 50. If you're in Michigan, you'll stay in the 40s. If you get down into Ohio, you're going to stay in between the 50s and around 60 degrees. Maybe some drops into the 40s as well as we get into the weekend. But one day where it could be relatively warm is by December 13th. We're going to see that moist air mass lift off to the north, and then those thunderstorms develop on the back side. Going to watch that for potential for thunderstorms with that on 13th into December 14th. So that's something we're going to have to watch as it moves through. On the backside, you have that cold front. Not really going to have too much of an influence. Going to drop temperatures back into the 30s at night, and then during the day, you warm back up near 40 degrees. So, and then I do see a surge of Arctic air that does seem to kind of show up here and on Tuesday the 20th. Now it looks like that surge of cool air kind of wears down before it reaches the Great Lakes region. So as you can tell, models do show it's not going to be too active over the next couple of weeks. The one thing just to watch is that December 13th event with that cold front that could be moving into the Great Lakes region as well. So that's something that we're watching. Euro model, not extremely similar. There's some differences with it. The similarity with this one is that streamline of rainfall does continue into Kentucky and Tennessee over several day period. Lots of rainfall anticipated for you guys. And you got that low pressure system. The Euro model actually shows more snow with this system though, which is different than what some of the other models are showing. So if I go back to that, you do see that snow potential showing up on the Euro model on Friday, December 9th. And then as we get into later on with that new storm on December 13th, you do see those storms popping up in parts of the south. And on the Euro model, it actually does show some sort of tornado potential connected with those thunderstorms that could be developing. So not as far north as the Great Lakes region. Obviously, it's not really going to be a substantial setup for this. But if the Euro model verifies, we do see a mixture of purple here that does indicate some ice potential with that storm on the 13th into the 14th, which, again, even in some thunderstorms possible right on the southern side of this. So it's really going to be a good difference in temperatures connected with this event. And it does show some lake effect snow on the Euro model on the back side of this. Let's get an idea of the snow accumulations real quick that are currently forecasted by the Euro model. Again, this is where it gets interesting because the differences between the models don't really allow us to have an accurate determination on what's going to happen. Total snowfall that appears on the Euro model actually gets up to about some pretty significant amounts of snow. So it's pretty impressive amounts, but again, it's long range. I do think this is likely going to change, but the storm we're watching comes from December 13th through the 15th that either could bring thunderstorms to the area or it could bring some heavy snow. So it's just going to be dependent on where that division line between the air masses kind of settles up, okay? But lots of heavy snow. I do think these numbers are a little extreme. So again, that's because it's more long range. So we're going to have to wait to see how these models kind of evolve later on over the next few days. Now, I want to take a look at the height anomaly. So the potential or the air mass the air masses that are kind of settled over the area, the ridges and troughs, that will have an influence on maybe our potential of seeing a white Christmas. So as we look getting close to December 22nd, you do see that kind of a streamline of troughs kind of settling over the Great Lakes region. It's going to make it quite cool as we get closer to Christmas time. So you do see those troughs kind of settle over the area. It's going to be cooler in the upper levels of the atmosphere, indicative of high pressure, which will bring cooler temperatures down to the surface at nightfall. And then you do see that trough still continue over Christmas Day. So that's something that's definitely worth watching, maybe bringing some potential for a white Christmas again. CFS getting into long range once again, but it's always good to hope for snow. But you can see how the pattern of snowfall evolves with upcoming snow events. Now, the CFS also seems to go alongside with the Euro model on some snowfall, a lot less snowfall in particular, not even getting past 4 inches. But that December 13th storm that we're watching is the one that could be the one to have any concern. But other than that, the weather's looking fine pretty much for the next 2 weeks. So that CFS model is showing that snow beginning to develop potentially. And then as we get towards Christmas, you really see that the snow kind of settles off to the north. Not really too much snow across Indiana and Ohio. It looks like the CFS is pointing to some snowfall on Christmas Day in southern Indiana. So that could potentially show up. And then by New Year's Day, it looks like more snow begins to accumulate across Michigan. So as you go into long range, extreme long range, you do see that snow really start to tip southward. But that's really far out. That's over a month out right there. So we can't really make a good judgment on that just yet. But the real storm to monitor right now is the December 13th storm. We'll have to see how that begins to evolve as the models get closer to the event. But that is really all I wanted to show. Not really too much going on in terms of weather. So hopefully this video was helpful to you. Make sure that you subscribe to stay updated, and we will hopefully be able to provide travel updates for the upcoming Christmas season. So when that comes, I will provide some updates as to that. So thanks for watching, and I will see you all later.